Let's talk about trusting our intuition today. Let's talk about the challenge involved many times with our belief in our faith, in our spiritual path. Is this real? Was that really intuition, or did I make it up? Let's talk a little bit about how to shift our focus to make that easier. And then I also want to give you some tools. And if this is your first visit to this channel, perfect session to jump in on. I want you to go ahead and click subscribe and click that notification button, because each of these are a little bit different, but each of these really enhance your spiritual path and how you approach it, how you grow within it. That's my groove. Did I make that up? That is by far the most popular question I've ever come across when it comes to intuition, because we've all been there. We've all had a moment where we saw something, felt something, heard something, or we got a sign, or we had a dream that was really specific, and we come out of that experience going, was it real? Did I make it up? This is so common. And if you've had it, this is going to be a great session for you. If you've asked this question, this is going to be a great session. There's going to be a couple components in here, so I'm going to dive in. But really, by the end of this, what I want you to have a takeaway on your position with faith, believe, and trust in your intuition, and how to hold yourself in your faith and your trust and your belief of your intuition in such a way that it makes it easier to get intuitive messages, get intuitive connection, and recognize it and feel it and be certain with it. Okay, that's the takeaway we want. But let me hit you with a couple things when it comes to imagination and intuition. First, this was a small one, but sometimes this tip and this tool is really helpful for people. I actually have years ago, my guides had me do a guided meditation where I recorded the actual guided meditation. They gave me the meditation, I recorded it, and then I actually give it to everyone that's in the spiritual community, the online community that I have, the Sage Circle. If you haven't heard about it, I'll put a link in here. But the guided meditation is called Discovery Meditation, and it's like 8 or 9 meditations. They've been around for so long, I forgot if it was 8 or 9. But they're meditations that start you out by asking you to use your imagination and feeling that push of creating something in front of you. Not something that's just unfolding, but using your imagination to paint or create something in front of you. And then the guided meditation shifts into saying, now allow intuition. And it lets you release into this space of intuition coming to you. And it's a slight different feeling between the two, between imagination and intuition. Imagination, this is what I tell people, it feels like a push, and intuition feels like a pull. If you can hold those two in your head, okay, I feel like I'm pushing this, or I was thinking about it, and so then I thought this, that's a push, right? If it just came to you, you don't know where it came from, then it's pulling you into something. So push or pull is kind of the best terminology and the best tool I can give people who are starting out trying to differentiate between imagination and intuition. When it comes to trusting yourself, though, that's the deeper flavor of the day. That's the deeper one. And that's a challenge for most everyone. Some people were absolutely blessed with a family environment where their family or the people that raised them were able to give them the trust and faith in themselves, that intuition is real, that there is more than we can see. There are a handful of y'all out there, and if this is you, please, I want you to go tell the people that raised you that they're wonderful and I adore them. But for the rest of us who were told that's not real, it's imaginary, or here's the box that you have to be in and nothing outside this box is real. For all of the rest of us recuperating from those belief structures and having these moments where they pop in and something will happen to you intuitively or spiritually, and you're like, holy crap. You're like, this is real. That just happened. There's no way I could have made that up. That was too strong, right? And then you find yourself going back to, well, did that really happen? Like, and then you sometimes you even shock yourself. Like, how can something that detailed happen or that specific happen, and then the very next day I'm not believing it again. What's going on with me? You would have thought that that first thing would have tipped me over into full belief and faith in myself and my intuition, but it didn't. So you're like, what's going on? All right, let me briefly talk about the physical component to this, because there is a physical component that is creating this habit of non-belief. But then I want to go into the intuitive part and being able to hold yourself in a space that you will experience more. And as a result of experiencing more, then it'll be easier to have more trust and faith in yourself. Okay, the physical piece is that we have habits. And there's chemical reactions that are happening within like our brain that say, this is our habit. This is our go-to. We have synapses in our brain that fire in a particular pattern. And if they've been firing in a particular pattern for long enough, then that's the belief structure that your brain will revert back to. So I'll use myself for example. I didn't open up spiritually until I was 32. Before that, I didn't believe it at all. It was like, nope. I had all those beliefs of psychics are frauds, mentalists. I get all their concepts, even though, mentalists haven't like let themselves test themselves and relax into probably the ability that they do have. But that'd be too far. So I was in that realm, right? Where I was finding ways to write it off, that it wasn't real. 32 years. Then my grandmother showed up. I had a pretty intense experience. I feel like I tell the story too much, so it'll be in one of the other sessions, I'm sure. But I opened up and I started testing it out, and I started having moments where I'm like, this has got to be real. That kind of proof can't come through any other way. And then I started to dive into it, and I was challenged by my own brain patterns because for so long, I didn't believe it was real. So the synapses in my brain fired in that direction, in the disbelief direction. That's not real. That's not real. That's not real. The brain is so powerful and so intricate. We have moments where we look at somebody and we think, how can they believe that? Or how can they get sucked into that? Or how can they? Actually has nothing to do with intelligence level. Highly intelligent people are very susceptible to being, pulled into this belief system or that belief system. And so our brains are very complex, and they will fire in a pattern that's been happening for a very long time. So back to the story. I open up, I start to have these experiences, and I'm like, wow, that's really detailed, really full of proof, and there's no way I can deny that came out of nowhere. This is real. And then the very next day, I would wake up, and what happened was that the synapses in my brain were like, wow, we're going to fire in a different direction now because this is real. For 32 years, we were firing over here this way, saying it's not real, but now this happened. So, wow, we're going to go over here today, and we're going to fire in this direction of how cool is this that this is real. You go to bed, and the synapses slowly go back to what they're used to, back to their old pattern. And you wake up the next day going, did that happen? Like, did it really? Like, because you're wired, and you've been wired either through how you were raised or your environment to not believe that there's anything beyond what we can see. Okay, so, well, they say it takes 28 days to break a habit. That's part of it. That physical component is part of it. So take that off of your shoulders. Actually, now that I'm saying all this, there's a video I did. It's a free video, and it's called the No Doubt Notebook. Right. And it's a little teaching video. It's great about talking a little bit more in depth about the synapses and how you can break that proof cycle through creating a notebook and then using that to help, sort of retrain that old habit into a new habit that is based on what's really happening to you now. Okay. With that said, that's the physical component. So beyond that, though, spiritually, what happens is when we are in a mindset of this is not real, then our brain and our energetic system together will block out that which we are trying to connect with. It's almost like a shield or a cloak that comes over us, or blinders, I like to say, that come on, that if you take the position of skepticism, which is sometimes is a healthy position. I don't want to poo-poo it. I was one. right? But sometimes it's a healthy position. If you take that position of skepticism and hold on to it, you're kind of putting the hands over the ears and closing your eyes and going, la, 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 it's not real, right? And it's those moments where you step in and go, okay, well, maybe this is going to happen, right? Then it opens up and you're like, ooh, that happened. There have been studies done on kind of the placebo effect of this, right? And it's placebo, but it's not. It's like if you take an individual and you step them into this scenario and say, this happens every time someone's in here, that person is going to step in and it will happen to them as well because they don't have the block up. They have the preset belief that it's not only possible, but it happens to pretty much everybody that goes in there. So let's say you have like let's come up with a corny example. Let's say you have a haunted house and they say everyone that walks into the haunted house has something happen, right? They get touched on the shoulder or they hear a voice or they get, a cold wind blows through the hallway, something. And let's say this haunted house has become so known for this. If you put someone walking through that house who is open to one of those experiences happening and believes it, they will have that experience because they're energetically open to it. If you put a skeptic through that house, and there's been some studies that you can look up on this that are kind of fascinating. You put a skeptic through that house who walks into the house saying, this is not real. They are walking in with this concrete bubble around them that says, this is not real. I'm putting out the energy that's blocking all of it. So it's a little bit of a different way to experience, to talk about it. A lot of people say, well, if you take a skeptic and you put them in a haunted house, then they'll be able to feel something. No, a skeptic doesn't feel something because of the energy they put out. Now, let me be very specific. As a former skeptic, there's no judgment around this. And there is no world that we live in that everyone should not be skeptic. You have to have all walks of life, all different belief structures. If there weren't skeptics, we wouldn't be talking about belief, right? It would just be. So this delicious experience that we're having, talking about, is it real? And it is real. Okay, so now how do I experience it, right? We wouldn't be even having that conversation if there weren't skeptics. So all walks of life, all belief structures have to be here on this planet. That's what makes it wonderful. With that said, the intent and the energy that you walk into a situation is what you're going to experience. If you walk into a crowded room and you don't want to talk to anybody, you don't want to hear anything, that's probably what's going to happen. You're going to mentally and energetically block out as much as you can. But if you walk into a room and say, I can't wait to see everybody, and I hope so-and-so is there, and then I'm going to talk to them, you're going to walk in and 4 people are going to turn around and be like, you made it, right? What you put out, you get back. Same is true for belief. If you put out there that it's not real, that it can't happen, then that's the experience you're going to have energetically walking through this world. If you put out there, and I'm going to be careful on this one, but you put out there is more than what can be seen with the physical eye. There is more going on. There are guides, there are loved ones, there are spiritual energies happening. Then you're going to start to experience them. And the careful component of this is I'm also not a fan of believing in everything. I'm just not. I'm just, because just as I mentioned, all the different walks of life, all the different belief structures here, there are some belief structures out there that are like, hey, and then this. And you're like, wow, that goes really far. And it also doesn't line up with anything. It doesn't make any sense whatsoever. So there are people that are trying to put out their beliefs to manipulate or to go too far or to, have you paying them on a weekly basis or something like that. But those belief structures, they go too far. The belief structure that you and I are working on is the structure of, I acknowledge that there's more out there than what can be seen. I acknowledge that there's really something going on. I acknowledge that we're all connected. I acknowledge that there's a higher self. I acknowledge that there's guides and loved ones. I acknowledge that it doesn't end when you die, that there is more out there. If you're not sure on that one, binge near-death experience videos for an entire day. You'll walk away from that going, there's something to this, right? Staying open to possibilities is the energy of having experiences. Now, here's the tool for you to start using to help. If you tend to lean toward, I'm going to doubt. Wow, I feel like I'm saying this with experience because I am. I'm going to doubt first. What I want you to do is I want you to, here's the tool. Tell yourself, I can believe and have faith in what I'm about to experience for the next X number of minutes. Figure out what the number of minutes is, set yourself up and say, for the next 7 minutes, I allow and believe and have faith in receiving intuitive messages through meditation. And then next 7 minutes, just be in it. Just be in it. The more you open up to those little periods of time where you're holding yourself in a space of believing in all possibilities, the more experiences you're going to have that you're going to come out of that going, wow, that's pretty strong with proof, or can't make that up, or I didn't expect that. These are all terms around intuitive moments. And if you hold yourself in that space once a day for a while, you'll start to find that you're more naturally letting down that doubting guard in your day-to-day life, and you'll start to have more intuitive experiences in your day-to-day life as well. The last thing I want to talk about with this is I want to talk about the deep respect I have for skepticism and doubt being a security blanket. I used it as a security blanket until such time as I didn't need it. Let me say that again. After opening up spiritually, after stepping into this path, I used my skepticism and my disbelief as a security blanket until I didn't need it. And what I mean by that is in the moments where I was uncertain or not ready, I would allow myself to close off to the idea and just go have my day with my gals and have some ice cream and, I don't know, talk about our husbands or whatever we did, right? I would have those moments where I'm like, not now. Just, I can't right now. And when it was time and I felt safe and ready to do a meditation or try to tap in or try to talk to my guides, the moment I took that extra step in the beginning of those sessions, just me, myself, and I took that step to say, for the next 10 minutes, I believe that all possibilities are possible. All things are possible. And I believe that I do have open and clear communication to the spiritual world, to intuition, to whatever may come through. Do GCP. Make sure that you're, spiritually protected and grounded and all that kind of stuff before you do it. GCP is Ground Clear Protect. I've got a link if you need help with that, but that's a practice everyone should do all the time. But you do GCP, step into something like a 10-minute meditation or a 10-minute tap-in, card reading, pendulum work, anything that you want to practice with intuitively, guide communication, mediumship. For the next 10 minutes, take that extra step in the beginning to say, you know what, this is real. This is real. And I have access to this just like everyone else does. My intuition is strong. And hold yourself in that mind frame for the next 10 minutes. And then afterwards, you can pick apart what came through. Pick apart the details that you experienced. Pick it apart and be like, blah. And then the skeptic in you, who may have come back around after the 10 minutes, you can be like, yeah, well, listen up, skeptic. Can't make this up, right? Look at this, and this came through. You can have your own fun little internal dialogue with it. But did I make it up? Common, right? If you have that moment, stop, reset, ground clear, protect, say for the next 60 seconds, I'm in a full space of belief and trust and protection and love and light. Can you show that to me again? And see if it comes through again. You'll start to see. We have to open up a little bit in order to allow. So our act of shutting down can get in our way. If you take anything from this session, that's what I want you to take away from it, is know that maybe subconsciously you might be blocking that which really is there, waiting for you to receive. So give yourself that tool, try it out, see how it feels. You can always go back to wherever you were before, put up your blocks as you need it until such time as you don't need them anymore. If you want a way to practice, yes and no intuition is my favorite still to this day. So if you want a way to practice this, to set up that intention, 10 minutes of pure belief, step into this next video, watch yes and no intuition, and use it as a tool.